Hey everyone, Rarity Dash here, and it's time for another reaction request. If you have a video that you would like me to react to, check the description below. There's a link that'll take you to a Google document with all the relevant information. So today, the video that I'm reacting to is comparing every version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone game PC... Okay, I'm not going to read all that, but for all the different consoles that they put out, Harry Potter 1 video games. And this is by Flandrew. And, yeah, I was a big Harry Potter fan growing up. The books released at the perfect age for me. I think I was the same age as Harry when the first book came out. So I grew up with those books, loved them, watched the movies as well, and loved those as well for the most part. Some of them, I think, got it better than others. But, yeah, big Harry Potter fan. That said, it might surprise you to learn I never once played a Harry Potter video game. I know they put out a lot of them, but I think by the time they came out, I had mostly decided through rentals of various games that, like, any kind of game based on an existing property usually wasn't the best. I mean, there were exceptions. I mean, especially like early on, like in the Super Nintendo and NES era, then a lot of those games were really good. But by the time that Harry Potter was a thing, and we were in like the PS1 era of gaming, and PS2 even, I guess, according to this, I guess it was right between those two, at the end of the PS1 life cycle. By that time, I feel like those games that were just sort of based on like the movie tie-in games, they typically weren't always the best. So I think by that point I was kind of staying away from them, at least for the most part. I think maybe some like anime-based games were still slipping through just because I was getting into anime around that time as well, or a little bit after that time, I suppose. Like, I don't know. It's hard to keep track of the time frame entirely, but yeah, the point is I never played a Harry Potter game, not a single one of them, so I don't really know much about any of these. I did hear that the latest Harry Potter game was pretty good, that Hogwarts Legacy. That looks like it might be something to it. I don't know if I'll ever get around to playing it, but I think it looked pretty cool. Anyway, let's go ahead and learn a little bit about these first Harry Potter games. Here we go.
If you remember PS1 Hagrid spamming Flipendo and awkward Quidditch controls, then you grew up playing Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone.
Don't remember any of that.
Because there were 5 versions of the game released, and I don't mean 5
can't all be the same. I mean, if there's a Game Boy Color one.
Absolutely different games developed by different studios.
They're all different?
Let's take a look at all of them. To begin with, let me take you back to November of 2001. The biggest book since the Bible gets adapted into a movie franchise, and as everyone knows, movies this big are usually followed by an avalanche of merchandise. Toys, wands, pancake mix, cologne, toilet seats.
I had like almost no
if you were reading
merchandise
magazines
either.
Back in the day, then you would
it's
see
just all about the books for me
Harry Potter
and the
games
movies
on almost every other page. Now, I'm going to start with the PlayStation 1 version because that seems to be the one most people have played back in the day. And straight away, like many movie tie-in games, you can tell this one was developed while the movie was still in production. It's trying to use likenesses from the film, but because the movie was still kind of taking shape, footage probably wasn't available, so they resorted to using art. The developers also leaned on the book quite a lot, as it was the only complete piece of source material available at the time. For example, Dumbledore was given a few of his nonsensical lines from the book.
Nitwit, blubber, oddment, tweak.
Actually, that's the only time you see him in the game, and this is all he ever says.
Ah, huggy, watty, Hogwarts.
Wow, they turned the most powerful wizard in the world into a deranged old man. Excuse me, Harry, you're getting in the way of my walk cycle. The talking paintings are quite cool, although some of them say things that are a bit questionable.
I can't remember the last time I opened up. I'm a bit rusty, you see. I'm not sure I still can.
The jagged PlayStation 1 graphics mean the game keeps bordering between charming and disturbing.
Remarkable, isn't it?
Go home to your mother, Potter. Oh, sorry. You don't have one, do you?
Oh,
gotta love Malfoy.
Shit, that's savage.
Just ignore him. Us Gryffindors should stick together.
Yeah, he says that and then just proceeds to bugger off the next moment. I must say, this game has a really good soundtrack. The composer, Jeremy Soule, actually wrote it before John Williams did the movie version, and yet they both seem to convey the same feeling of magic. Flipendo, everyone's favorite video game only spell. It's also the only thing Harry says throughout the entire game. Oh, here we go, the dreaded flying lesson. This thing used to give me nightmares. If I didn't know better, I'd think the developers were trying to pay homage to Superman 64.
I hope not.
No, shit.
It does look kind of similar.
Oh, here he is, the legend himself, PS1 Hagrid. Look, even Harry's like, wow, I didn't realize the poly count in this game was that low.
But watch yourself. There are some weird creatures running around out there.
Yeah, I know. I've run into PS1 Hagrid already.
Not good. Keep trying. Not good. Oh dear.
Go back to the Muggles, Potter. You hardly belong in the company of wizards like me.
Oh, come on, cats. Follow me. Come on. Oh, this is as bad as that Queen Amidala escort mission from the Phantom Menace game. Ooh, looks like Quirrell's had some lip fillers put in.
Dark arts. You're just in time.
Some of these paintings, I swear to God, like the why though meme would fit in so well here. Shit. Hold on, so I fall into a vat of acid while being chased by a troll, and the next thing I know, I'm in the hospital wing, and Nurse Pomfrey's like, don't you go falling into acid again, you naughty boy.
I mean,
screw this.
I guess they got some pretty powerful magic from this
Midway through the game, Hagrid decides to pull Harry out of school and take him to Diagon Alley for some shopping.
Go to Gringotts to get some knuts, sickles and galleons. I'm off to the Leaky Cauldron for a few butterbeers if you need me. I'll meet you when you're all done.
Oh, I see what's going on. You want me to buy all this stuff using my own money, and you're gonna go get drunk at the pub.
You must complete the paperwork by collecting the appropriate forms.
Seems
I must say, I never
fairly in
expected
character.
I'd be collecting forms at a bank in this children's game about wizards. If that's not enough, the floor's slippery. Oh no, I remember this part. Wait, no, stop. Oh, God, stop. And I thought the customer service at my local branch was bad. But in all seriousness, I've got to say, this game's got some really good voice acting, especially for the time. There's a really varied cast of British voice actors, which makes a nice change from every other game having US voice acting.
Dear me, you'll have to try again if you want to make any progress.
Yeah, it is fairly uncommon, but I mean, you'd have to for Harry Potter.
Alright, now that I've withdrawn my money, it's time to spend it. Not so fast. These shopkeepers make you work for your purchase.
It'll cost you 1 galleon for the 3 wards, but you'll need to find my giant purple toad first.
Alright, I've got an idea. Why don't you shut up and take my money and give me the item?
Excellent. You have 3 sickle coins. That entitles you to purchase an eagle owl feather. My eagle owl is in the owlery, but he's rather highly strung. He must be fed before you can charm a feather from him.
Then what the hell am I paying you for? Jesus Christ, Diagon Alley really needs a consumer standards review. Back at Hogwarts now, where Hagrid leaves an 11-year-old boy unattended at night in the middle of a dark forest. What's the worst that could happen? Oh shit, it's a ring wraith. Alright, better get ready to fight him. What?
Yeah, Harry wasn't alone for this in the
faint?
book.
That's it?
I've got a
Who he
present
was
for you,
with,
Harry. I made it myself.
Oh, nice flute. Let's play some tunes. Oh yeah, John Williams, you've got nothing on this. Alright then, it's time for the final trials. First up, Fluffy. Ron, lay down the beat. Ah, shit. Alright, with the dog asleep, we have to fight Devil's Snare, and then after that, it's more flying.
Of course.
Shit. We then move on to a simplified version of chess, and thank God for that, because I still have no idea how to play chess. And then the next trial is having to figure out this crooked street game. I wonder which one of the Hogwarts teachers thought up of this one. I'm willing to bet it's Professor Sprout. She's always looked like a street hustler to me. You then take on a giant set of armor, and finally, here he is, Voldy Quirrell. For the final battle, you have to use the mirror as a weapon against Voldemort. I mean, it makes sense. The scene in the movie and the book wasn't exactly brimming with action. You also get this part, look, press X to hurt Quirrell.
Not
that's
much of
up there with press F to pay respect. And that's it. The game ends just as it began, with a bunch of pictures in an album. It's difficult to separate the nostalgia from looking at the game objectively, but I would say, apart from the Quidditch sequence, it's a pretty decent kids action-adventure puzzle game. So next up, let's take a look at the PC version. As mentioned before, this was actually made by a different developer, no wonder, while the PlayStation 1 game was developed by Argonaut Games. But they do share assets like art and music and voice actors. By the looks of it, WB Games gave both developers some overall points they had to hit, like Quidditch and having to learn spells and going through dungeons, fighting trolls, collectible cards, beans, that kind of stuff. How they got there or how they implemented those mechanics was really up to the developer. For example, in the PlayStation 1 version, the lesson with Quirrell takes place about midway through the game, and you've got to do these button sequence combinations in order to learn the spell. In the PC version, it takes place at the very start of the game, and in order to learn each of the spells, you have to trace the symbol with the mouse.
Okay.
Shit. Dumbledore doesn't mutter nonsense in this version, but he is wearing some fashion specs. Oh, that might just be my graphics card. Also, what's wrong with Dumbledore's voice? Like, it changes so much in this one part.
A nasty horde of fire crabs. Now, up the stairs and off to your lessons.
You should probably get that looked at, Professor. And straight away you can see the PC devs had a lot more resource to work with. Hogwarts is bigger, although parts of it feel strangely narrower than the PlayStation 1 version. This game obviously has better graphics, but the PlayStation 1 version does have better aesthetics. Some more arbitrary differences between the versions include Hagrid actually looking like a human being, Harry having to scream all of his spells out, and a variety of random glitches.
Oh.
Whoa, it's Potty Way Potter!
Overall, it's pretty much a give and take between these two games. The Troll Chase is better on PlayStation 1, but Quidditch is better on PC, although it's still not great. The PC version is a longer game, but not necessarily better. A lot of the sections, like the library and the spell challenges, are just dragged out. As for the final endgame tasks, they're pretty similar to the PlayStation 1 version, with some alterations. For example, the chess section is shorter, but the potions are a bit more complicated. And every time you get the wrong one...
Well, I mean, that's
we get to Voldiquirrell.
how it works.
Come on, flipendo him. He's just standing there. He's definitely going to need to see a chiropractor after that little move. This final battle also uses the mirror to cast a spell at Voldemort. But get a load of this ending, so you defeat Voldemort and Harry faints, but then Dumbledore just strolls in. Like,
he was just there.
And I thought
he was
just one Hagrid getting chores for him.
Great job, Dumbledore.
You didn't feel like helping me fight Wizard Hitler there, old man? Anyway, the game ends with the same art as the PlayStation version. It's hard to say which one of these two versions are better. They were clearly both developed to be like the main flagship version of the game. I think it really depends on which one you have that nostalgic attachment towards, so let me know in the comments which one you grew up playing. Alright, so let's move on to the handheld versions. Wow, they're really getting
this gotta be completely
out of
different.
this artwork. Puzzles, that's the best way to describe this game. Lots and lots of puzzles. And why are there so many barrels at Hogwarts? To be honest, there's not too much I can say about this game. It follows the same basic structure as the other ones, lessons interspliced with story events and then the occasional Quidditch. I guess the graphics are pretty good for an early Game Boy Advance game. I personally found this game really frustrating as a kid. Every time you die or fall through the floor, you have to restart the entire section. And I remember having pages and pages filled with these arrows that I would have to jot down just to get through these sections. And in case you were wondering, Hagrid looks like a human being in this version. The final battle here also uses the mirror gimmick, but why is the mirror so small? Also, they clearly had a hard time conveying that the voice was coming from Quirrell's turban, so they literally had a turban as the dialogue sprite. And
I mean, fair enough.
The PC ending was quite abrupt, then get a load of this. So look, you deflect the spell at Voldemort one more time, and then he just walks into you, and bang, you're in the hospital wing with Dumbledore. Credits. Alright, so what about the Game Boy Color version? You're probably expecting it to be just like the GBA version.
Yeah, probably not. Because it can't...
Once again, this is a completely different game developed by a different studio. And this one is an old school turn-based RPG.
Okay.
Right, this is
Well, that's
Final
kinda
Fantasy
cool.
and the Philosopher's Stone. Look at Harry's death animation. He just keels over and lays there. Yeah, after the last couple of years, I know how you feel, mate. Harry's walk cycle's pretty great too.
I doubt many people were playing this one if Game Boy Advance was
pretty
already out.
fluid animations for Game Boy Color.
Yeah, it looks good.
This is also the only version of the game that has a Hogwarts Express segment and the boat segment, although there's a bit of filler added, like being attacked by a tentacle. Well, that was invigorating. Hagrid, I'm not sure you want to be calling encounters with tentacles invigorating. I have to say though, the actual art in this game is really weird. Like the character icons are weird, and Hogwarts definitely doesn't look like Hogwarts. It's filled with just strange looking statues. For example, what the fuck is that?
I don't know.
Is that a cowboy? These are on par with Gen 1 Pokemon sprites. And why is there a giant floating bubble in this room? I don't remember that in the movie or the book. One of the rooms is just an ancient Egyptian museum. And check out these paintings on the wall. What is this supposed to be? Oh, and of course there's also a secret entrance inside a griffin's arsehole. In terms of gameplay, having a turn-based RPG Harry Potter game sounds like a cool novelty, but the game feels kind of half-baked. You only ever battle as Harry, and there's no party.
That's a shame.
Which
Why not?
feels like a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
Most of the game consists
Ron
of
and
fetch
Hermione
quests
there.
and random battles. This game is very faithful to the book though, even down to the small details like Malfoy first confronting Harry on the train instead of outside the Great Hall. As for the final trials, well, they're pretty much just turn-based battles. But it is nice that these developers actually took the time to animate Quirrell grabbing Harry instead of just walking into him like in the GBA version. So there we have it, the 4 Philosopher's Stone games released in 2001. But that's not quite it. There was one more version of the game released in 2003, but you're probably wondering, why did they wait 2 years to release this game? Well, you see, the first movie came out in 2001, Chamber of Secrets followed in 2002, and that movie had its own game adaptations. But then there was a gap in 2003, as Prisoner of Azkaban wouldn't be released until...
Gotta fill that gap with something.
So WB decided to use this gap to release Philosopher's Stone for PlayStation 2, Xbox, and GameCube. And I'll be honest, objectively, this is probably the best version of the game. The static artwork has been replaced by fully rendered cutscenes, there's a proper dynamic camera,
makes sense
fully
that this would be
fledged
the best.
inventory system, quest lines, a map, spells can be assigned to buttons, there's also a tutorial section at the beginning. The castle isn't just bigger and broader in scope, it's also better laid out, with each floor representing a different class. They've even put in the work to animate the characters' face expressions, although some are a bit hit and miss.
Not that you needed it, Potter.
Interestingly enough, this game still doesn't use the movie soundtrack. In terms of gameplay, it shares the overall structure with the older versions, with Harry having to learn new spells via trials from the teachers. And if the Game Boy Color game was Final Fantasy, then this is definitely Zelda. Each of the spell trials is the equivalent of a dungeon, and each new spell is like a new weapon or item that can help you get through the dungeon. You can even assign them to buttons like you would in Zelda. The game is also filled with nice little touches, like, for example, Harry reacting to each bean flavor.
Chocolate. Coconut.
And you know what? Quidditch is actually pretty good in this game. You can also hop on the broom outside Quidditch matches and fly around the entire castle, which is really cool. As I said, objectively, this is the best version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, but this game does have a big asterisk hanging over its head. Remember how I said there was a Chamber of Secrets game released a year before this one? Well, this game reuses a huge chunk of that character model, the castle, the spells, the controls. I'd estimate that only about 30% of this game is actually new. But we shouldn't be too surprised. After all, this was published by EA Games, who knows
there we go.
Squeezing the most out of last year's game. A big chunk of that 30% is made up of the endgame trials. The Devil's Snare is similar to the previous gen games, catching the key is almost identical. The chess mechanics are a bit deeper, you can move several pieces this time. Okay, finally let's fight Voldemort. Wait, are those Harry's parents, or is that Goyle and Ginny? And why does Voldemort sound like grade A underage?
Yes, you see what I've become? Wingardium Leviosa.
Wingardium Leviosa? Bullshit. He's doing full-on Palpatine. And surprise,
yeah, kind of looks like it.
Involves having to use the mirror. Only this time, the gimmick is Harry's parents are the ones casting reflective energy at him, which allows him to send the spell back at Voldemort. And that's it, no Dumbledore waiting in the wings, just a fully rendered scene of Harry celebrating in the Great Hall. So there we are, every version of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, or Sorcerer's Stone for you Americans. Let me know which one is your favourite in the comments. And remember to leave a like, because every like you leave contributes to PS1 Hagrid's Reconstructive Surgery Fund. Thank you.
Wow. Well, there we go, that was interesting. I mean, as someone who never played any of them, it's kind of cool to see what they were. I mean, I might have. I don't know if I missed out because, like, I mean, the PS2 one looks pretty good, but recycled stuff and it's an EA game, so I don't know. I mean, I'm sure it's fine. I mean, the Game Boy Color one actually looked the coolest to me. You know, I'm RPG fan, but I mean, it does seem kind of limited, so even that, I doubt I really missed too much. But yeah, interesting video, and it's just cool to know what was out there at the time that I could have played if I had been so inclined. Yeah, anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the reaction. Let me know if you did, and see you in the next one.